Have you ever used a camera and wondered whether you should be using the RAW or the JPEG format when shooting photos? In this video, I'm gonna tell you exactly why I think you should be using one over the other, and we're getting started right now. Hey everyone, Mike here. If you're watching this and you're into cameras or photography or filmmaking, or maybe you like watching travel vlogs, or you wanna see me try things I've never done before, make sure you start right now by subscribing and click that bell so you don't miss any content. All right, sorry for pulling away from the video, guys. I'm editing this right now and I just wanted to add something, and that is that this video is sponsored by Skillshare. So big thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video and making this video possible. We'll get back to the regularly programmed content in just a moment, but on the topic of learning, I wanted to let you guys know about Skillshare, because Skillshare is like the best place online to go to learn more about whatever it is that you're into. So whether that's music or photography or art, or graphic design, or writing, or business, whatever it is that you're into, whether it's for your career or just like a creative hobby that you have, Skillshare has got you covered, and they've got courses on tons of stuff. So if you don't know about Skillshare, it's an online learning community with more than 25,000 classes in things like design, business, photography, filmmaking, even stuff like cooking. It's really awesome. And if you sign up and do the premium membership, that's gonna give you unlimited access so you can join the classes in communities that are just right for you. So I don't know about you guys, I know it's July, but a lot of people, you know, they make New Year's goals and then by July you're like, what happened? Well, what about that thing that you said you wanted to learn about earlier this year? Or that thing that you wanted to get better at earlier this year? Why not start right now on Skillshare and just like knock it out? And whether you want to fuel your curiosity or your creativity or even your career, Skillshare is the perfect place to keep you learning and thriving in 2019. Invest in yourself, people. Trust me, it makes a big difference. So I actually took the time to check out Skillshare as well before doing this video for you guys. And one of the classes that I really like that I think you guys are going to really enjoy is a class I'm looking at here on my monitor called Fundamentals of DSLR Photography. So if you're brand new to photography, or maybe you're out in the market for trying to get a new camera, a class like this would be perfect. But the good thing about Skillshare is like you can literally knock out and hone in on one specific topic, and you can knock that out in like an hour just by watching one of these Skillshare sessions on whatever topic that you want. So I really wish that I knew about Skillshare a couple years ago, because I feel like it would have just given me like a total leg up in terms of just knowledge to speed ratio, right? So this Fundamentals of DSLR Photography one has been awesome, and I definitely recommend you guys checking that out if cameras are something that you're into. I also want to mention that Skillshare is super affordable. An annual subscription actually costs less than $10 a month, which is pretty sweet. So guys, join up right now and join more than 7 million people who are learning on Skillshare. There's a link in the description of this video right now, and if you click on that, the first 500 people who use that link to sign up will get 2 months of a free trial on Skillshare. That's 2 months, that's 60 days that you could spend learning something new. So guys, click that link down below and get a 2-month free trial. That'll be for the first 500 people that sign up. And yeah, thanks for watching this, and we'll get back to the video here right now. Okay, so let's talk about these two different image formats that most modern cameras have, which is RAW and JPEG. Not all cameras shoot RAW, but I figured that most modern ones do, as do most modern smartphones. Okay, so what is RAW? So the best way to explain this is that RAW files are camera image files that contain minimally processed data from the image sensor of that camera. So basically what that means is when you shoot a photograph with the RAW setting enabled, that photo is going to contain the most amount of data that the sensor in your camera is able to capture. So a RAW file will contain things like more dynamic range. You're gonna also get a higher bit depth, which is going to allow you to get more colors in your image. And one of the downsides is that RAW files are also going to contain a lot more data, so those file sizes are also going to be a lot larger. RAW files come in a different variety of formats, like each camera usually just uses their own RAW file format, but they're typically referred to as digital negatives. Okay, so let's talk about JPEGs, and I'm willing to bet you've heard about those before, and the reason for that is that they're basically the most widely known or commonly used image file format. Now in photography, if you're gonna be shooting with just a JPEG file format, those images are going to be processed in camera. So that basically means that you're going to get smaller file sizes. The images are also a little bit more easily accessible because there's a really broad array of software out there that can open JPEGs. I mean, let's be honest, nearly every device can open a JPEG image file, so you're really not going to have any problems viewing that image anywhere. Some downsides of JPEGs though are that you're going to get less data in your image, and you're also going to have a lower dynamic range. Okay, so for the sake of visual organization, I'm going to throw up a little chart here that's going to show you guys some of the advantages and disadvantages between shooting your photos in RAW and then shooting your photos in JPEG. Okay, so let's take a look first at the RAW image file. So if you're shooting photos in RAW, here are some of the advantages. You're gonna get more dynamic range. You're also gonna get more colors because raw files are gonna be, capturing that data with a higher bit depth. You're also gonna get little to no artifacts in that image, and all of the camera data is kept within that file. Now, here are some disadvantages to shooting raw. Your file sizes are gonna be a lot larger because like I said, there's a lot more data that's being stored in that file. Raw files also require a lot more post-processing with different types of software like Lightroom or Photoshop or Luminar, etc. There's a bunch of different programs out there that can do this, but essentially you have to get special software in order to access and edit these raw files. All right, so moving over to JPEGs here, if you choose to shoot your photos in the JPEG file format, here are some advantages. You're gonna be looking at much smaller file sizes. I like to say they're also more easily shared as well because the image is already processed within the camera. So if you want to take a photo real fast, transfer it to your smartphone and send it to your friend or something, then the image is already in a JPEG format, and it just makes things a lot easier to share if you want to send that file to somebody else. Another big bonus of shooting in JPEG is that nearly every image program or device can open a JPEG image. So some disadvantages of JPEG are that you're going to get lower dynamic range, you're also going to get less colors, you're also gonna get the potential for some artifacts that are happening within that image. And essentially the image is already baked in, so post-processing is very limited. So to show you what I'm talking about, I went out today and I took some photos, and within these photos, I tried to get shots that had some really dark shadows as well as some really bright highlights. And the reason for that was that I wanted to get a much broader dynamic range so that when I put them into post-processing, I can play around with them more and show you guys the differences between RAW and JPEG when it comes to post-processing. All right, so now that we got those images, let me throw those into Lightroom. I'm gonna show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we are inside of Adobe Lightroom, and this is actually Lightroom Classic. I prefer to use Lightroom Classic instead of Lightroom CC when I'm on my desktop, but that's neither here nor there. Here are 12 images. Actually, there's 6 images, but they're duplicates. So like one's gonna be a RAW, so the DNG file, the .dng file is gonna be the RAW file, and then the .jpeg is the JPEG. So there's 6 different images here that I took today while I was out shooting, and I kind of want to go through each of these as quick as I can and show you guys some things that I want to point out that will sort of help you understand the differences between RAW and JPEG. So the first thing, we'll start with image 5 here. This is the raw image. I have done no edits to any of these photographs. So this is what this image looks like. It's just a trail with this crazy looking tree. And there's some shadows, there's some highlights. But if I switch between this and the JPEG, right off the bat, you'll see that the images already look different. So this is the raw, and then this is the JPEG. So the JPEG you see is like a little bit darker. It's a little bit more green. Whereas in this image, there's a little bit more yellow within the green. So there's already a difference. Having already imported these photos into Lightroom, there's already a difference between the JPEG and the raw images. And I haven't even begun to edit this yet. So what you're seeing when you're looking at the raw image here, this is what the camera captured, like as the full readout from the sensor, like the most amount of data that it could capture is in here. And the JPEGs, remember, are, they're basically processed inside the camera. So a lot of the data is already baked into the file itself. And you'll see as we edit some of these that the changes you can make are quite limited when it comes to JPEGs. So we can take a look at another example where I kind of overexposed with image 11 and 12. I will open these up. So this image I kind of overexposed for, I wanted the clouds to look really, really bright. And if we bring the highlights down, you can actually see we're starting to gather some, or we're starting to get some of that cloud detail back, which whenever I take an image and I accidentally overexpose it, if I'm able to pull out any of the detail from the cloud still, I usually get pretty excited. So this is one of my favorite things when editing. If I didn't take that great of an image, is being like, hey, what can I still save in this raw file? Like what data is still hiding in there that I don't know about? Because if you look at this normally, you would think, oh geez, there's nothing here. What have I done? But bringing these highlights down, you actually see that we're revealing some detail in the clouds, which is definitely better than nothing. This blue sky comes back over here, which is really cool because that was gone before pretty much. So we're bringing that detail back, which is always a good thing. And yeah, I got a bit of my car door in this shot, so don't worry about that. But anyways, we can boost the shadows again a little bit. Don't really need too much here. Maybe change the contrast. And if we can get even more detail in the clouds if we bring these whites down as well. So bringing the whites down gets even more detail in the clouds, which is always cool. So let's compare this now to the exact same image that was the JPEG image. So we'll come up here to settings, we'll copy these settings, and I'm gonna open up the JPEG, which again is super blown out and crazy looking, and we're gonna go ahead and paste those. And as you can see, the sky looks pretty crappy. So I pasted the exact same settings. We've got whites all the way down, highlights are all the way down. We could even, if you even wanted to move the exposure, like, hey, it's still too bright, let's drop the exposure. You can't. It's already, all the details already been lost. We were already clipping those highlights and all this stuff, the detail and the data is completely lost already. So let's go ahead and open these up in comparison views so we can compare the two. And right off the bat, I can already see a significant difference between the raw file on the left and the JPEG image on the right when it comes to detail in the sky. So again, in this shot, when I took the photo, I intentionally overexposed the sky so that a lot of the clouds were already blown out and some of the highlights were being clipped. But with the raw file, there was still some data in there that we were able to save, which is really, really cool. So you can see that there still is some cloud detail here, where over here, it's just like it's just a white muddled mush that doesn't even look white really. Like this area throughout here looks gray, whereas over here we at least have it's still white looking. Zooming in and really looking at specific types of detail here, if you want to zoom in, you can see the color banding throughout the blue here, which looks really ugly and gross. Whereas over here on the raw file, it just looks a lot more natural looking, and there's actually a lot more blue in this image. We were able to save a lot more of the sky detail here. You can really see the difference between these two. And same with up here. If you go up to this sort of section of the clouds, you see this really nasty looking color banding here that's going from like different shades of gray all the way up to a darker gray, and it just looks really gross. Whereas over here, we actually have cloud detail. You can still see some of the like outline of this cloud here. And again, both of these were the exact same image, except one was raw, the one on the left, and the one on the right was a JPEG. Okay, so now that we know all that, if you were to come up and ask me, hey, what file format should I shoot my photos in? Here's what I would recommend. I always recommend that people shoot in RAW, and here's why. Even though the file sizes are larger, every time you take a photo using the RAW file format, you know that your camera is capturing the greatest amount of data that it possibly can. And if you want to edit those photos in any way, then by shooting RAW, you now have the best file format possible to do so. So if you're somebody that doesn't want to worry about editing your photos afterwards, then I would recommend you shoot in RAW plus JPEG. So most cameras actually have this. You can shoot in both RAW and JPEG, and it'll save both of them. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you both options. You're going to have the best of both worlds. Plus, this is also nice if you take a picture like I mentioned earlier and you want to share it immediately, then you already have that JPEG file format right there ready to share, and that makes things super easy. But what if you're somebody that shoots in only JPEGs? And let's say like a year from now you decide you want to get into photo editing, and there's a photo that you took a year before that's one of your favorites, but you only shot it in JPEG. Well, that's going to really limit you when it comes to editing that photo. But if you shoot RAW right now, if you start shooting RAW right now, then if you want to edit that photo tomorrow or 5 years from now or 10 years from now, it doesn't matter. You're going to have the most amount of data that's contained within that file because you chose to shoot RAW, and it's going to give you the most amount of flexibility when it comes to editing that photograph. So in my opinion, it's better just to have it, right? So if you want to just worry about JPEGs now, then also do the RAW plus JPEG because that'll give you the most amount of flexibility. At least that way you have the RAW file if you need it. And let's be honest, why spend as much as you did on your camera if you're gonna shoot in a file format that doesn't utilize the full capabilities of the sensor you paid for? So what do? I always shoot in the RAW format, and this gives me the greatest potential when editing a photograph. And really, I never recommend anybody shoot just JPEG. Honestly, there's really no reason to shoot just JPEG. So if you still wanna have JPEGs, then I would make sure to do the RAW plus JPEG setting. Trust me on this. So if you guys would like to check out some of my photography work, you can check out my Instagram. The link is down in the description down below. That's gonna do it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you wanna learn more about cameras or photography or filmmaking, then make sure you subscribe right now down below. Click that subscribe button, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on any more content. And if you guys are also into watching stuff like cinematic vlogs or travel content or videos where I try new things and do photography out in the world and have a lot of fun, then make sure you check out the playlist that's down in the description down below. It's my Try New Things playlist. I've been working really hard on some of this content. I would love for you guys to see it and check it out. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.